music, dance, and glamour all into one. The thing I wanted to do business with was government because things just never got done.
Yes, hello there. This is Seriously Speaking, and my name remains Adesuwa Onyenokwe. Like some will say, it's getting hot in here. Hot in here, I mean hot in Nigeria. The election's around the corner. There's a lot of activity. Things are trending. But what's very important to us on this show, ensuring that people understand the issues that are involved in electing the right leaders. We started talking about making your votes count last week. One of my guests that couldn't make it last week is here with me today. The discussions went on, and we have our panel. The same thing from last week, we're going to sit down talking about making your votes count. But I have somebody in the house with me today that we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about how you can hold your leadership accountable. This man should know, because like I say, he's been in the foray and out of the foray also, because he's also tried to be president of this great country of ours. Meanwhile, have you collected your PVC? If not, please go out there and pick it up. And by the way, for those who are listening and who know, there are some people who haven't registered are still trying to register. I don't know if INEC is going to give people opportunities to register. People have gone to local government councils and they say, no registration going on, at least not as at now. This is Seriously Speaking, and my name is Adesuwa Onyenokwe. Dr. Utomi is my guest when we return in a short while. Yes, welcome back, and I must remind you again, have you collected your PVC? It's your right to vote. And my guest who's coming on right now is a professor of political economy. And he started his life as a mass communication graduate. His school life took him from Kano to Gusau to Onitsha. And some people might remember the days of Patito's gang. He's tried it all. He was the youngest person to become a special assistant in Nigeria. In the time he became special assistant to President Shehu Shagari at under 30 in 1983. And 82, I beg your pardon. My guest is one of the founding fathers, some people describe him as that, of the Lagos Business School, now Pan-Atlantic University here in Nigeria. Like I said before, he's a professor of political economics. It's my pleasure to invite into the studio today Professor Patrick Utomi. It's nice to have you. Come on, no, yes, it's nice to have you. You know, when I called you and you accepted instantly, I know you're my personal person. I'm glad to have you on set.
Lovely to see you.
You know, because you understand these things about television, because mass communication is your first area. Was that a first love, or it was just...
You don't want to hear the story?
I would like to hear it.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
It was a complete accident.
Oh, really?
Yes, it was... I actually wanted to be a pilot.
So you tried to be a lot of things.
I tried to be a lot of things because of my life, but that was what was trending
at that time.
When I left high school in 1971. And, you know, some deal between my father and I, we agreed I should go to university, have fun, make friends. And after a year or two, go to flying school. So I had to pick something to do in the university, close my eye, put down the pencil. Here comes mass communication.
So there must have been some, you know...
Providential.
There must have been, because it became something that was valuable to you, because speaking for you...
Absolutely, it's made a great difference. I mean, when I got to the university, some strange thing happened. I ran into something called the library. And of course, flying school flew out of the window, and graduate school beckoned. And then, of course, in grad school, I moved to the policy sciences.
And did that policy thing happen because you had the opportunity to work with President Shehu Shagari? Because you were also with the forthcoming of Nigeria at that point. You were also very young, achieving all these things at a very young age.
Well, I think, again, it comes from the library thing. Just the encounter with the library at the University of Nigeria and the desire now to grow in learning. So that I went straight from youth corps to grad school. Same day I left youth corps, I went off to grad school. Good fortune, all kinds of things. At 26, I'd put aside 2 master's degrees, a PhD, and I was in a rush to come home. A few weeks later, I found myself in government.
Wow. So was that what made you go back to policy at Harvard?
No, policy was... As soon as I left Nigeria and the mass comm thing, it was strictly the policy sciences. That was what drove me. So going back was just a continuation of the work that I had started in grad school. Yes.
So that means leadership for you has always, I mean, we know, for example, in the past 12 years, you've been running the CVL lectures, you know, and I wonder, because leadership is an attraction for you. Did you smell leadership earlier?
Well, you see, in trying to understand why nations succeed and why nations fail, I had to deal with the dynamics of all kinds. Is it economic policy? Is it, And as I dealt with it, I came, and this was really the arrest point. It was at the Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum of 2000. Why is Africa faring the way that it's faring? I'd been to a series of conferences in France called by former French Prime Minister Barr, and the question was, Africa must produce or die. Why is Africa not producing? Why is there Afro-pessimism? What are the problems? And I was fortunate to be invited to work with Jeffrey Sachs to produce the first Africa Competitiveness Report. I wrote a chapter in that report. And so when we're presenting it to heads of state and all of that, there was a very humorous remark by the president of Mozambique about, how they get advice to do this, they do that, it's not working, they do that. Mm-hmm. And I felt some of the multilaterals are not quite providing a comprehensive view of why nations succeed. So I began to think of it, and I came up with this model that is called the Growth Drivers Framework. Mm-hmm. What are the things that make for progress? You've got to make the right policy choices. But if you made the right policy choices and your institutions are weak, there's pushback. That's the classic Nigerian. That's why Nigerian economy is considered a recursive economy. Mm-hmm. 2 steps forwards, 4 steps backwards, because the institutions are extremely weak in Nigeria. There's human capital. If government should do only 2 things, I keep saying, is invest in education and healthcare. If people are educated and they're well, they can do anything else. There's entrepreneurship. There's culture, because values shape human progress. But how do you get the values? Leaders. The primary duty of leaders is to shape culture, not tar roads. Those are natural givens. And that's why when they say, this governor is tarring roads, I often say to people, a moron can sign a check for Julius Berger to tar a road.
Absolutely.
So tarring a road is not...
It's plebeian. Well, it's necessary.
It's necessary, but it will be an of-course thing that comes from the right values.
Absolutely.
So values are it, and values are shaped by leaders. And then, of course, some argument between some economists who came to embrace institutions. There's a school called the Institutional Economic School. People like Hernando de Soto, the Peruvian economist who wrote the book Mystery of Capital, say, look, forget culture, it's about institutions. I say, culture matters, institutions matter. If we've got to get our institutions right, we've got to get the values right, and leaders play a critical role in that happening. So because of that, I focused on leadership quite a bit.
That's why the center, I said CVL, I didn't tell people what that was, the Center for Value and Leadership. Yeah. And you'll be having these lectures 12 years in a row, raising questions. And the question you're raising this year is leadership and...
the ultra-poor. You see, we live in a country, forget the nonsense we hear every day about largest economy in Africa. Mm-hmm. Nigeria represents the worst case. It's nonsense. Mm-hmm. In terms of real dynamic of the quality of life of people. Mm-hmm. Nigeria represents a terrible case of the misery index. If you take any misery indicator, death at childbirth, infant mortality, availability of water, take any of that. Nigeria is bottom of most indicators. The Legatum reports just come out. Nigeria places so poorly, even some of the cotton bowl republics of Africa do much better than Nigeria.
But are we improving?
In patches, but in reality, no, we've moved back, actually. If you look at the quality of life, life expectancy, there was a joke about when I turned 48, more than a decade ago. And I said, look, this is more important to celebrate than a 50th birthday or 60th.
Because you've crossed
Because I just crossed the line of life. I'm now in bonus territory. I'm eating up somebody's time. Now, Nigeria had a higher life expectancy 30, 40 years ago. In the UK, for the last 100 years, life expectancy has gone up every single year. The reason they are obsessed with obesity and eating
excesses,
American food and all of that is the fear that that could be the first thing that would lead to a pushback on life expectancy in 100 years. Mm-hmm. In Nigeria, we've gone back many years. I mean, life expectancy used to be in the upper 50s, but came back as far back as 45. If you look at the our own NBS, statistics that have recently come back on poverty incidence, we're getting poorer in Nigeria. Chukuma Soludo, in his critique of the Buhari, Jonathan Buhaha, makes the point from the NBS statistics about the poverty incidence moving up towards 70-something%.
So the point is poverty is still high.
Extremely
it remains
high.
An issue.
Yeah.
And, and I wonder if that's an issue that we should be thinking about when we're going out to vote. So I want to take a break so that you can catch your breath. Take a break, and I'll return after my short break to talk about why you're not running for presidency. I'll be back in a short while.
Make learning fun for your children with ClickLight from Etisalat.
Etisalat, now you're talking.
Yes, welcome back. I'm still here with Professor Utomi, and I promised that he was going to give us an answer to why he's not running for presidency now. Although some people thought you were crazy. Why didn't you start at councillorship? Why did you go all the way to presidency the 2 times you tried?
It's something about the culture of Nigeria that shows a complete misunderstanding of why people seek public office. I have said repeatedly that if I wanted a position in public life that was ideal for me, it would be local government councillor. Because you touch people, you are there with people.
Absolutely.
But there's nothing like local government in Nigeria. It's a farce. There is a fiction called local government. It's just something that governors abuse, so there's no local government in Nigeria. So the next level really is, okay, why didn't you run for Senate? Nigerian Senate is a useless place. I'm using very emotive words to convey
your personal opinion.
My opinion. A good friend of mine who was in Senate who's a very well-considered, respected lawyer, I should mention his name, Utomi, told me that the years he spent in the Senate were a big waste of his life. So if you're really intent on making change, making a difference in people's lives, you don't run for anything just because you get a political position. I'm not looking for a political position. I'm looking to affect people's lives. So that's one.
And the way things are in Nigeria, it starts from the top.
It's not just the top. It has to be, for my own strengths, an executive kind of role. Mm-hmm. So means that the only 2 positions I can possibly run for in Nigeria, executive positions, whether it's governor or president. So that is one. 2, you've got to have a clarity in your head of that difference. You have to be able to see tomorrow, today, and say, this is what I am going there to do. The place that made meaning at the time, and I can tell you a story of how my engagement even evolved. Mm-hmm. First of all, I was of the opinion that I was unlikely to run for public office. I was going to be engaged in civil society, and that's as important a role as you can play. Mm-hmm. And so in 1983, I, quote-unquote, inspired the founding, 1993. I inspired the founding of something that came to be known as the Concerned Professionals, which was professional people trying to hold government accountable, trying to hold the military. There are many books that suggest that we were probably one of the most dynamic forces that chased the military away, the Concerned Professionals who confronted Abacha. That's how I made the assassination list of the Abacha regime and all of that. So we thought we had done our bit. As civilian rule was returning, we thought we should pull back. Some in the group said, no, if we don't step in and show the way, things will go back. And we said, no. It was a big debate. Some from amongst us, the late Waziri Mohammed, Donald Duke and co, engaged. We pulled back. After 4 years, it was clear that they were right and we were wrong. And some in the group began to say, look, the country doesn't even have a direction, it doesn't have an agenda, it doesn't have anything.
So what are the reasons that you decided to try?
Yeah, it wasn't even, the group said, look, we need to finish what we started, more or less.
So why did you,
and I was thinking,
why did you do it again this time?
Because clearly, we lost the brief as a country. What happened was, when I call it the big mistake of 99, when the original politicians, the people from the Sardauna stock, from the Awolowo stock, from the Okbara stock, who knew that politics was about service, self-giving of yourself. And these are people who finished political careers without a house to live in. Those people thought that the military was not serious about living in 1998, so they didn't really quite engage. And then we had a lot of touts and bagmen for soldiers who had nothing to lose. They jumped in the place and took the stage. They took the stage. Oil prices were at unbelievable highs, and they pillaged the state and then defined the arena as money.
That changed everything.
It changed everything.
So now I want you to respond, given the fact that it seems money politics is very, prominent here. I want you to tell me very clearly, how can we make our votes count on the 14th, at least?
Well, people have to be educated enough to understand what is at stake. And really what is at stake is the heart of Nigeria, the soul of this nation.
There's a lot of pushing and shoving and...
Look, I am telling you, in many ways, it's going to turn out to be a Pyrrhic victory. Because we may win an election and lose a country. The way that things are set up.
If we continue.
The way we're going.
What could
We've got these attack dogs who are going on and being completely unreasonable in the kinds of communication that's taking place in the country. The place is emotionally heated. Nobody's asking, what should government do? People are asking, your grandfather did this, your brother did that. And so we built up this tense environment without engaging the things that matter in Nigeria. Let me give you a classic example. Chukwuma Soludo has written this piece that is a critique. You can think whatever you think of Chukwuma Soludo, but it was a very well thought out piece. What are we seeing? They are abusing him. They're saying it's because he didn't get this or get that. They're not saying, what did Chukwuma Soludo? Let's take a classic example of the problem of now. Now, when Soludo wrote about it, that the economy is in complete shambles, that is a repeat of what happened in 82, 83, I thought, any reasonable person should know that it is correct what he's saying. I've said exactly this in lectures for months.
So what should we think about as we go out on the 14th? I just wonder, because I want to go to my panel.
You see, if you are an incumbent, whether you are governor or president, you run on your record. If you're a challenger, you run on your vision of society. Personally, I completely agree with Soludo's assessment of...
So Nigerians should get ready for tougher times, clearly.
Yeah, but you see, the two ways you can see this. It's either a threat or it's an opportunity. So for me, the moment is a great opportunity. Nigeria has never been more blessed than the mess of now. Great opportunity to build a great economy. And I'm going to reply Soludo very soon and show him yes, why it is a great opportunity rather than a problem that we should be hunkering down over. But if the same people who made the mess are being asked to clear it, you move down to Einstein's definition of insanity.
So for anybody who's going to vote, you think, am I satisfied with what has happened?
Yeah.
And even if I'm going to change, does the person have the vision that
yes.
I can carry my dream?
Absolutely.
So as we're going to, those are the things that we should think about.
Yes.
So I must thank you, because I must go to the panel so that the panel can at least do some serious conclude the discussion we started last week. And I must thank you very much for coming. And remember, there's going to be the lectures on the 6th, your birthday.
Yeah. Okay.
And every birthday you see,
I don't know how to celebrate birthdays. So
you start
on my
discourse.
birthday, there's this CVL conversation. And the subject is particularly important to me. The ultra poor, the poorest of the poor. I took out 2 weeks. I went to Bangladesh, spent it in the world's biggest NGO to look at how you deal with the ultra poor. So a couple of years ago.
So you're ready for it. Well, I must tell my viewers, I'm going to scroll the location. So if you are in Lagos and you want to go, it's free.
Yeah, it's free.
It's free.
It's
So
free.
come and
At
listen
Muson,
to, and then we'll do that. I must thank you for being with us. So when we're talking to Dr. Pat or Professor Pat, you can go on for 2 hours and it's not boring. So we'll invite you again to Seriously Speaking at a later date to talk about other issues. Thank you very much, sir, for being here.
Great pleasure. I'm glad I could come.
So if you hold on, we'll just go to our panel and let's finish the discussion with them before we round up the show today. Thank you for watching.
Your call credit is low.
No, they finish with 50% bonus on all recharge monthly, 100% instant bonus daily, and 200% bonus every weekend to call all networks. You never have to worry about your airtime on the Etisalat network. Talk longer when you recharge today.
Etisalat, now you're talking.
Yes, we're still talking politics. You can never finish talking about it. But since I have such brilliant people, I decided to extend our panel discussion and address some of the issues that we didn't quite finish before. And this time, we're just going to be having a chat. Still, at the end of the day, you will get a better understanding of what it takes to make sure that your vote counts. So now we're looking, what are the things that may make your vote not count at all? We think it's enough to just say, I like this candidate or I like that candidate, and then we walk and we stamp our fingers on that thing. My panelists say it's much more than that. It starts with the process, right, guys? Once again, let me just introduce you again. I have Dr. Gbadebo Smith. It's nice to have you again and still remaining in the studio with us. Thank you. I have Amy Oyekunle from KIND, and I have Dr. Chidi Odikalu. Thank you for being. People call you Dr. Chidi, though. Do you know that?
Really?
Yes, I just say Dr. Chidi. And that's enough. So we talk about the fact that even though you think your vote is counting, there are some things that are working against your vote counting. I think Gbadebo should begin with the first salvo.
Yes, I think a lot starts with the way the system is organized. I give the example of the fact that the period between the time the candidate emerges from his party as a flag bearer and the elections is 2 months. The presidential system is not our creation. It's something we borrowed from the Americans. In the American system, that same interval is 1 year. And if you ask yourself, why does it matter? It matters because in the presidential system, you have 1 year in which to get to know your candidate, to get to know his views, for him to campaign, and to have minds changed based on issues. I noticed that in a run-up to the primaries, there was all this talk about the fact that we must encourage an issues-based election. You don't have an issues-based election when you cannot have debates, when people cannot go from place to place campaigning. What you end up with is what we have now, which is a poster war. And basically, we are looking, is this man good looking? Is this woman, that's the bottom line, because what else can you derive?
We can't really know the candidate. Could it also be because we already guess on sense who the candidate is going to be anyway?
Well, that is probably one way. We guess that, this will never change. This person is going to be imposed on us anyway. So it doesn't matter how many months or how long they have for campaign. At the end of the day, if this is the one that has been ordained by the powers that be to rule, this is the person that will come. And it's also, in a lot of ways, how our system, we kind of think. You don't challenge leadership. When somebody's talking to you, look down, don't challenge you. Who are you to be talking to this person? And in a lot of ways, even though we have talked a lot about education, some of us, even though we're educated, we still hold through to those cultures and those values and those systems and those, don't talk to your principal in that way. Don't talk to your...
But is that bad?
Is it bad?
Yeah.
Is that a bad thing?
Yes, it's a bad thing.
This is me that was exposed to going to school in the UK. And I remember the first time I went to school in the UK, I was taught to give verbatim what your professor gave you. And I think I tried that in the first semester. And I had my professor call me and say, you know what, Amy, this is great, but I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your views. And I'm like, no. I had to reorient my thinking. And so, yes, it is bad because it discourages critical thinking. It discourages you questioning and asking questions. You don't ask, you take.
Well,
Actually, I totally agree with that. And what strikes me is the irony, where in a post-military, supposedly post-authoritarian dispensation in which people have freedoms and liberties, and yet kids who go to school today have never done any demonstration. In most of our universities, they've never disagreed with anybody. They've not been encouraged to do so. You know, you go to Nigerian law school, you're supposed to wear a uniform. Universities prescribe uniforms for people. They tell young women in universities what to wear, how to wear, what length of clothes to wear. The idea of creating, you know, of encouraging thinking. Critical thinking, dissent, and confidence in the young people has been destroyed. And yet, when we had the military rule, you never had 1 month pass by without students trying to shut the damn place down. And I do think that it is important that we encourage young people who are going to disagree with the system, who can have the confidence to say things must be different, because that's where you get the energy. Then the older people bring their experience to bear on that system so that they can give the young people direction. Right now, what we've got is a system where choice doesn't exist for a lot of people.
What if, like what Dr. Gbadebo Smith said, you have just a short period for anybody to even know who we are voting for. Then we are voting for selected people at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter what we do.
Yes, but importantly, it reinforces the idea that you have no choice. Exactly. So people keep thinking on an ongoing basis that we are locked into an arrangement where we are given, you know, people who will...
Can that change, though, and how do we change that?
You know, I want to bring you back to when you said why. It's also with the institution and the process. So you already have a process where the candidates have already been selected for you to vote for. Sometimes, even within the political parties themselves, they don't give you that choice. Already, this is the person, this is the anointed, this is the chosen. No, politics is really not supposed to be that way, is it? It's supposed to be...
Democratic politics.
Yes, it's supposed to be ingrown, grown from the grassroots. This person lives in this community. He knows what this community is all about. He knows the problems. He has come together in a participatory manner to decide what the solutions are, and he gives his agenda.
That's rather pessimistic. I mean, I'm worried. Does it mean that we can't change that? Then why should I bother to vote then if my leader has already been selected for me?
This thing is young, and we've got to have the faith to believe we can change it if we keep long enough at it. For it to prove itself, and for us to prove our faith in it. Of course, there's no guarantee that we are going to rescue progress from it. We can easily rescue further retrogression. That's possible. But I think it's important for us to give it a chance to work. And Amy talks about the politics of ordination. I suspect you're Catholic.
Yes, very proudly so. I have no apologies about it.
And you don't have ordination without incardination.
Yeah?
What is incardination? It is an oath of submission and obedience to constituted authority, to an overlord, essentially. And our politics of ordination has incardination to it.
Godfather?
Exactly. In 2009, Kayode Fayemi did the keynote at the conference of the African Studies Association in New Orleans, and he said Nigerian politics was the politics of the worship of 5 gods and the Godfather. And he listed the gods to include INEC, money, political thugs, the judiciary, the security agencies, and the Godfather is the Godfather. Now, as a lawyer of fairly limited abilities, I took umbrage at the idea that judges and thugs were listed in the same space, and actually judges came beneath thugs. Now, that pained me a great deal. But really, that's what we've got. And this business of worship has got to be broken if we are going to make any progress.
business of worship, but isn't that our culture to respect elders? But you know, I know in Yoruba land, for example, nobody will respect a man who says he's an elder and he's not looking after his family. There's criteria for leadership.
Yes, you can't exactly divorce culture from a people because you become inanimate. But it's increasingly important that our culture evolves.
Yes.
We are stuck in a mode where people are constantly returning us to 1960.
Yes.
You can go to any university you like, you can train, but when you come back here, you must understand that you are home. What does this home mean? It becomes the problem. And there's a generation of people who will not accept this. They have already started to arrive. In all manner of ways, they have not yet
And they're aligning with what exists.
They've not yet engaged with the political process actively, but they're engaging with the business process, and it will translate. The idea that some Oba, some chief, some Bale is going to dictate things to you. I mean, I have an Oba in my area in Ikoyi, and I always ask the question, who are his subjects?
You?
Not me. I didn't volunteer. I don't know who he is. He doesn't know who I am. We have no connection. So those links are being slowly broken. And going back to the election issue, I think the question of management now comes into play. Who is managing this process and what does he know about management?
Like the INEC, people believe that INEC should be run by political scientists.
Yeah. So there are political scientists who have never run an organization. To the best of my knowledge, Jige is a professor. He's probably a good professor. But the question is, has he actually run a complex organization? Because you introduce a novice to the most complex of organizations and you expect him to perform. By now, we should have seen one trial run, a mock election, something to show that these machines, how they are going to be deployed, who's going to actually run. There should have been a trial run. And then they pull it all back and do it again on election day.
No, but would you say Nigeria is a peculiar circumstance?
There's nothing peculiar about us.
What amazes me about Nigeria and elections is we wait till 4 years later. So, for example, we have said it's a process. We all agree it's a process. So a process is don't start afresh. Always continue. Always continue. And for Nigeria, we are always like, and he has alluded to the fact that, it's about the money. But really and truly, we need to start questioning how much of that, is the money. It's not enough about the money. So we begin again with voter register, voter cards. In 2019, we'll probably do the same thing. Exactly. We have that problem.
Okay, how do we are talking is to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Exactly. And here's how we always do that when we do we are this organization that we're always saying women 30%. At this point in time, as I stand now, we only have 6%, and God help us if we even move forward beyond that point. And you know what somebody told us when I said, you people are always coming, all these women NGOs and women activists, women election, and you're always coming quarter to the midnight hour. Normally before,
it all the time.
And it worries me because sometimes I hit my head on the wall. Again, it is based on donors' money. Donors' money comes like 2014, that's when donors' money are coming out. But we need to get to a point where we realize that this process cannot be run by somebody else for us.
Tell me, Chidi alluded to the fact that it's a question of poverty, not poverty, but impoverishment. How does that affect how our votes, the value of our votes?
Everything is in the mind, really. You can only get as far as you permit your mind to imagine you can get. And we all think, those people are wealthy, but as I like to say, some people are so poor, all they have is money. Right?
You can tell that to the man who has eating bread in the morning.
Now, seriously, and you can illustrate, you see that every day in Nigeria. Now, and the worst thing military rule did to us was to lobotomize us, to take out our frontal lobe, our thinking lobe. And so, Fela summed it all up. What did he say?
Zombie.
Now, and that is the average, and that's the point I think that's being made here, that we've got to begin to grow citizens who have the confidence to be wrong. who have the confidence to reimagine the country. And that is why when I think of this country today, I have a lot of faith, because we are having young people who are posing questions that this country has not prepared itself for and has no questions for. We've got to innovate. We've got to think afresh. So the first impoverishment, and that's when people talk about poverty eradication, I tell them, you know, this is a mistake. It's a bad framing. In our country, we have no business talking about poverty, but you see impoverishment, where the hospital that is supposed to work for the community becomes somebody's house. The road that is supposed to lead to a farm or a stream becomes somebody's investment. And the INEC processes, somebody else owns them. Now, Nigeria is run by allocation that way. Everybody has their allocation. And because of that, we've destroyed the capacity of our country to work. Now, we've got to fix those things one by one. It's going to take process and back-breaking process. Until we are prepared to acknowledge that that process exists and begin to put them in place, we are going to continue to have difficulties. And INEC, the election process is an illustration of that. Why will our votes not count? How do we begin to remedy it? We need to reduce INEC's role to the core of its capabilities and
Which is?
Managing the electoral process and making it work. INEC should not be responsible primarily for managing our demographics. We have a census commission, a population commission. We've got an identity management commission.
Is that what they're doing? What they're just doing is giving us statistics, facts about who's done what.
INEC has become a primary manager of Nigeria's demographics. That's wrong. And it shouldn't be. NIMSI and the population commission have to work and do their work. Number two, INEC should not be a manager of internally displaced persons. No. That is the business of NEMA. That's the Emergency Management Agency. That's the business of the Refugee Commission. When they work, INEC simply docks onto their systems, collects the information, uses it for its work. INEC should not have any business doing election security. That's the business of what? The security agencies. INEC cannot be a Dr. Cure-all for everything. It cannot be a manager of contracts and procurements. INEC is doing everything but administer elections. That is why we're here.
They're doing everything, and I would think they're doing everything, but they're adding, you know.
And imagine the transaction costs.
Thank you.
We are duplicating, counting people, identifying people, labeling people, and giving them identity cards. Yes. In other places, all this is one process. Yes. And it happens only once in your lifetime. Yes. You don't keep going back to repeat the same. So half our resources are drained on day one by inefficient processes. Absolutely. Because the managers of the process are incompetent to the task. It's not that they're incompetent people. They're incompetent to this task. They're not trained for this. I'm a professor of geography. Does not in any way prepare me to manage finance.
But you know, Prof, yes. I do beg to differ. Yes. I think sometimes there are certain things that are in place that do not want the ecosystem or the structure to work.
Exactly, I was thinking.
If what you have put on the table, which is a wonderful grandeur idea, works, it means that it blocks certain contracts.
For example,
blocks certain
power
people.
Works,
exactly.
Some contractors won't be happy.
So sometimes...
yeah.
Yes, so let us call a spade a spade. The reason why probably INEC or any other agency might not be as efficient as it should be. It's common sense, by the way. But then again, in school, they said common sense is not common. It's because certain structures want it to work that way. And the question is, how do we deal with those structures to make sure that they do what they're supposed to do?
It's perverse incentives. We've got to remove the perverse incentives from the system. Now, you know, I have to deal with public servants now and again these days, and I see the lastminute.com emergency system is actually a revenue stream for people. Now,
the later you leave something, the more chances of...
The more expensive it is.
The more expensive it is, and the more money you make out of it. So these dysfunctions are there not because we are innately incapable. It is actually because we are quite capable. We manufacture them as a revenue stream. Because you ask yourself how it is that when you go to a city like Abuja, right, the people who have the best assets in the city, real estate, you will find behind desks as public servants, as civil servants, in fact. Now, and those assets, are not performing. Why? Because nobody is living in those things. They are empty. Now, if those assets were performing, somebody would have to live in them so that there'll be some earning to offset the investment, the money that was invested in building it. If you had to take a loan, a mortgage. But no, these people don't need a loan or a mortgage. What do they have? The asset they have is their position.
So the bottom line is civil service remains one of the biggest challenges that we have.
Oh, absolutely.
But listening to...
Or the institutional arrangements that have been created to serve this process of collecting money off the system.
But we're not pessimistic though?
No, this is not about pessimism. I think my people
I'm thinking about the future.
No, they have a saying of, if you know what is wrong, you can begin to put strategies in place to fix it. And you must critically think about, okay, why is this like this? Why is it that every 4 years we have these problems? A recurring decimal is like a broken record.
So should that affect how I vote?
No.
But it's something that people in the media can hold on to and insist upon.
Noises.
Yes, insist upon with time. Immediately we are done with this set of elections, there should be organizations that make it their business to ensure that there is no repeat of these bad arrangements.
Well, maybe if the right people went into politics, I just don't know. Maybe populate the political arena with many more vibrant, like people like you. Are you going to politics soon?
I'm not sure.
Are you going back?
You see, because that's why we're going to be working with the same structure.
Yes.
So who's going to change the structure? Our vote?
One, our vote.
Begins.
Two, our message and the pressures we bring to bear. I mean, when the next electoral commissioner is going to be elected, we should have informed, and we should, there are issues, I go back to the issues of dissent. There are issues that when you were given people who lack a certain experience as an electoral commissioner, the population, we should be in a position to say no.
But I think there are some things we can do quite easily. Take organizing elections. Now, to be fair to INEC, most of the people who organize elections are ad hoc workers.
Youth corpers.
The people at the PUs are youth corpers, local teachers, and all of that. But most of those, apart from the youth corpers, most of the ad hoc workers we use for elections are supplied by politicians. Long before the elections, the politicians recruit them and supply them. Now, why can't we begin to generate a different sense of ownership of the electoral process through a set of INEC volunteers, an INEC volunteer scheme? Now, what will an INEC volunteer scheme, for instance, do for you? You give people a sense of ownership of Nigeria. You give them the nation-building volunteer ethic. You put them onto a job ladder, a skill ladder. And you know what? You get an army of young people who can help you build a country by administering elections. And you simply database them, so you're managing data in doing that. And they are young people, so they can help you manage the data, actually. You put them onto a technology track for organizing a different kind of country. And then you vet them, and every time you need to call up people to do your elections, you don't have to rely on the politicians, you go back to your database. And for me, this is just one little idea. Change the way we do business, but we love our incardination. And so we will not want to have kids we cannot control go and manage elections for us.
So for as long as we hold on to that, we really can't hold on to really credible votes.
Which is why who we vote for matters so much. Because these ideas are going to cascade down from the man at the top. If he has a commitment beyond himself, because half our problem is a commitment to self. If he has a commitment beyond himself to the people and to the future, more importantly to the future of the country, not to a godfather, then frankly, we are almost there.
Now, I'll tell you my experience, right? The godfather never takes that oath. Put your hand on a book and stare into the ether and say those words. And I took that oath as a young father. And I cried. I swear. I shed tears. Because it struck me, actually, doing this thing.
To your son.
To my children. That if I go wrong, and if I actually go against that oath, these kids are going to take the consequence. There'll be no godfather there. And I went into my bedroom and I wept. Now, and you talk about me being a critic or whatever. It is that thing.
Yes.
The fear of that thing. I'm telling you the truth.
For the sake of our children.
For the sake of those kids, I'm making sure I don't burden them with the consequences of having sworn to an oath. Now, we've got to get to the point where people realize the Godfather doesn't take the oath.
No.
You are the person that takes the oath. The consequences are on the heads of your children and their children. Don't get there.
So for everybody going into political office, keep that in your mind. It's a covenant with the people.
Yes.
As you get elected or selected or whatever. It says because we don't know how to count. Our votes count if we can count.
It does.
You said our votes count if we can count.
If we can count. Yes.
Do you agree if we can count? I just wonder.
If we can count.
If we can count.
No, there is a little experiment I run. And, run it with yourself. How many Nigerian languages have a word for million? And had a word 20 years ago for million? There are not too many of them. Now, if you don't have the word or the concept, you don't have arrangements for reaching there. Mm-hmm. Now, presidential politics is wholesale politics. It's not, parliamentary politics is retail politics. Presidential politics is wholesale politics on a scale of managing numbers that you've got to have cultural, and for Larry's point is cultural processes for. Because we don't have cultural processes for managing numbers, we replace it with magic and miracles. And I don't see any difference, actually, in point of logics and philosophies between the miracles we manufacture whenever we count and the miracles we profess to manufacture in the miracle industry of faith in Nigeria.
Well, elections will come and we will vote.
We will.
Right? And you all are saying we should just keep trying. But as we keep trying, we should take into consideration facts like processes. Yes. So I would like you to round up by just giving me 1 minute each of the processes that you think we should put in place. And we should have in our heads, so as we go to, like the Yorubas say, Dibo.
You see, we must take into account that separation between the people and the authorities we create, the positions we fill. Imagine a situation where we actually had 1 year to run a campaign. Even a poorly performing president has 1 year to attempt to redeem his own image beyond making statements and promises. Because if a president, an incumbent, runs on his scorecard, not on promises, you have no place promising me anything. It is the aspirant that has the opportunity to promise. You show us what you can do. If we had that 1 year, even if he had failed for 3, he still has the chance to fire a few people, pretend, and maybe in that pretense, we'll get a chance to move forward.
Amy?
Our votes count. They do matter. It's a process. But I think it begins first with you being politically aware that you do matter. And don't let anybody treat you like a dotted line. And that's what they've done in the past. Oh, these people, they've come again with their noise. In this present situation of so many things happening in the north, Niger Delta and everywhere else, you should get up and say it does matter. How do we change the structure? By being there on that day and saying, I will be aware of what is going on in my surroundings. EIE and many other organizations have processes where you can report any wrongdoing. And this is another way that you make it count. You don't say, well, I've gone there to vote, I'll go and sit down and wait for the results. Anything that you report, and that is a step in the right direction. Remember, we're talking about processes. That's how it counts.
Here, I'll put on my public officer hat for a moment. And at the National Human Rights Commission, we're focusing on 2 things: hate speech and violence. And we're going to track that through the elections, and we want to be able to exact responsibility if that happens for those who get involved in it. So we're going to be calling out politicians, we're going to be documenting, and if they get egregious, if they get serious, we're going to be looking to exact responsibility. Because votes cannot count if people are too intimidated to be able to vote, if there is violence, and if people are threatening Nigerians with consequences that just don't belong in civilized political processes. So hate speech, for us, we've got to exclude that. Threats of violence have got to go.
So they can report to you?
And they can report to the National Human Rights Commission. We're setting up an election violence incident center that will monitor things across the country, intervene as fitting, and be able to get back to Nigerians with the steps that we're able to take.
Okay, thank you very much for spending time to stay back, even though this was supposed to have been finished last week. Thank you for being with us. And we, once again on this show, seriously, please go out there and exercise your vote. There's no no-show, because a no-show is also a vote, like our panelists have told you. We'll see you again. Thank you for watching.